Tonight, Hawaii officials defending their decision not to sound the emergency sirens as the death toll from the wildfires climbs higher. More than 110 people now dead in the Maui fires. Hawaii's Attorney General today announcing an independent investigation into the response, and Maui's emergency chief speaking out for the first time. Why he says they didn't activate the sirens. And the video showing down power lines. Did they help spark the fires? Our team on the ground in Hawaii. Also tonight, Hurricane Hillary forming in the Pacific, taking rare aim at the Southwest and California, the state that hasn't seen a direct hit in 84 years. Al Roker is here. The Georgia grand jury that indicted former President Trump receiving threats. The investigation the sheriff announced today. The stunning turn in the trial of two white men charged with shooting at a black FedEx driver in Mississippi. The victim's mother storming out of the courtroom after the judge declares a mistrial. Why he did it. The FBI arresting multiple police officers in raids in California. Their alleged racist texts. The new warning on North Korea. Is Russia giving Kim Jong-un nuclear missile technology? And striking a chord, the brothers who inspired an orchestra to bring their story to life.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening and welcome, everyone. Residents and survivors of the deadly inferno on Maui are getting some answers to some of those growing questions about the adequacy of the official response to the disaster, but not necessarily answers they accept, including why sounding warning sirens would have been a bad idea. There were some testy moments when the island's top disaster official took questions at a public meeting, defending what was and in some cases what wasn't done. And now tonight, Hawaii's Attorney General says she will bring on a third-party private organization to investigate the government response, promising an impartial, independent review. While no official causes of the wildfires that struck Maui have been determined, there is a broad belief that many of the more than 100 lives lost could and should have been saved. The heartbreak and frustration on Maui is where we start again tonight with Tom Yamas. And Tom, people are really calling for accountability here.
That is right, Lester, and good evening. That relief is coming in tonight to Lahaina, but the tension is rising. Local officials are being pressed harder than ever before. The AG, as you mentioned, is muscling up her investigation into why. And tonight we are spending time with the families from this community just behind us who did not make it out alive.
Tonight, the number of victims from the burn zone keeps climbing. More than 100 dead and 1,000 still unaccounted for. As the head of Maui's emergency operations faces the public for the first time since the disaster.
Do you regret not sounding the sirens?
I do not. And the reason why... and
so many people said they could have been saved.
But when follow-up questions were asked, this happened.
As the flames
you want him to give you the answer?
I do, but I want to get it out there.
Let him finish his answer.
I'm sorry, there's a lot of people.
Well, you're talking and you're not letting him talk. If you want to talk, come up here.
Even though the sirens are all hazard systems, Herman Andaya maintained they are primarily used for tsunamis.
Had we sounded the siren that night, we're afraid that people would have gone Mauka. And if that was the case, then they would have gone into the fire.
The sense of frustration on Maui lingers just like the smoke.
It's got to this point where it's like, who are these people watching us? Or do they even properly care for us?
High winds, dry conditions, and low humidity are being called the climate threat multipliers that fueled those deadly flames across Maui. But the root cause of the fires is still being investigated. Hawaiian Electric now being accused of years of inaction leading up to the deadly fire. A new lawsuit alleges the utility knew of the risks for years and failed to take steps to prevent catastrophe. Citing this stunning admission in a 2022 funding request to state regulators, where Hawaiian Electric acknowledged, quote, the risk of a utility system causing a wildfire ignition is significant. Despite the warning signs, the suit alleges the utility failed to act. Hawaiian Electric declined to comment on pending litigation, saying in part, we will work with the state and county as they conduct their review.
Fire crossing the road. Not good.
But now, some are also blaming the power company for slowing the evacuation. Cole Millington shot this video as the flames approached.
There was a mass evacuation occurring, and we were trying to get to safety. And It extremely hindered the chances and the speed at which we were evacuated.
All of this as hope has faded for some families.
You really love Lahaina.
Alfredo Galinado lived in Hawaii for more than 30 years. He had an aloha for everybody, his family told me, and now he's gone.
What do you remember? It was actually last month. I took him to Vegas. 4th of July. I was going to take him for his actual birthday. No, he's gone. But that's my best memory with him.
And now balancing all this suffering against financial need, there is tension over tourism. Visitors account for roughly 70% of Maui's economy.
So you want the tourists to come and spend money on Maui?
We all do. You ask anybody who works in the tourism industry, which is pretty much everybody, yes.
So many people are looking at the rubble and worrying, can there be a future in West Maui?
We're going through fertility treatments. I want to have a baby, and I don't have a community anymore.
A disaster that's already stolen lifetimes and threatens to last for generations. Tom Llamas, NBC News, Maui.
In Southern California, we're watching the threat of heavy rain and flash flooding as Hurricane Hillary, now in the Pacific off of Mexico, moves northwest. Al Roker is with us. Al, how serious is this storm?
Well, Lester, we haven't seen a tropical storm make landfall in Southern California since 1939. This is a rapidly intensifying storm, already a Category 2 with 110-mile-per-hour winds. It's moving northwest at 14 miles per hour. The water temperature is 6 degrees above normal, so this could be a Category 4 by tomorrow at noon. It hits a pool of colder water right along the shoreline, but that could help weaken it, bring it down to a 2, and then it makes landfall. But it still could retain its tropical characteristics, and that could be a big, big problem. Heavy rain and winds locally, Lester, 5 to 8 inches of rain. And the month of August is the driest month in Southern California. They get no rain, so this could be big problems.
All right, and separately, you're keeping a close watch on wildfires in Canada.
Absolutely. We've got over 1,000 wildfires burning right now, and the smoke forecast brings that from Winnipeg all the way down into Chicago, where we could be looking at 12 million people at risk for that Canadian wildfire smoke. And if they are in that sensitive group, it could be very, very unhealthy, Lester, for the next 24 hours.
All right, Al, thank you. And tonight, authorities in Atlanta are on high alert after personal information of grand jurors who voted to indict former President Trump was posted online, leading to threats. Garrett Hake is in Atlanta. Garrett, good evening.
Lester, the Fulton County Sheriff's Office says they're working with other area law enforcement to respond to these threats and ensure the safety of grand jurors whose names and addresses have been posted now on a fringe website. One user of that site posting that the jurors, quote, signed their death warrant by voting to indict Donald Trump on Monday. Now, this comes as a Texas woman was arrested and detained for threatening the life of the federal judge overseeing Mr. Trump's other election interference case in Washington. No word tonight on when Mr. Trump will surrender for processing on the charges against him here in Atlanta. That deadline, Lester, is next Friday.
Garrett Hake, thank you. In Mississippi, a shocking turn tonight in the attempted murder trial of 2 white men accused of chasing and shooting at a black FedEx driver. The judge declaring a mistrial. Jesse Kirsch has details.
Tonight, outrage in Mississippi. A judge declaring a mistrial in the case of 2 white men accused of trying to murder DeMontario Gibson, a black FedEx driver who had just made a delivery.
And with great reluctance, the court has no choice in this matter but to grant the motion for a mistrial.
Gibson's mother escorted from court today after Judge David Strong's ruling, a day after a police officer admitted to withholding evidence. Brookhaven Police Detective Vincent Fernando saying under oath that authorities had taken a videotaped statement from Gibson, but did not share it with either the defense or prosecution, as was required.
The failure to turn over matters in discovery is just something that can't be ignored. In 17 years, I don't think I've ever seen it happen, but it happened here.
A mistrial is a major hiccup for the prosecution, but all in all, a second trial really saps the resources of the defense more than the state.
Brookhaven police have not responded to NBC News' request for comment. Gibson says in January 2022, he made a delivery in his FedEx uniform and was driving a Hertz van with the rental company's markings when Gregory Case and his son Brandon allegedly chased and shot at him. Gregory Case's attorney says his client only planned to ask the driver what was happening outside his mother-in-law's home, but the driver did not stop. Gibson believes he was chased because he's black. In a statement tonight, Gibson's attorney calling the mistrial a delay in justice, calling on the Department of Justice to investigate the Brookhaven Police Department. Jesse Kirsch, NBC News.
There is breaking news tonight from Northern California. The FBI arresting police officers in the Bay Area accused of criminal conduct. Aaron McLaughlin is following this. Aaron, what do we know?
Lester, in what the Antioch mayor is calling a dark day for the city, this morning the FBI arrested a number of officers in a series of raids across the East Bay, the product of an 18-month investigation into alleged criminal conduct by at least 9 law enforcement officers from Antioch and Pittsburgh, including racist texts discovered on seized cell phones. According to court documents unsealed just now, the officers have been charged in 4 separate federal indictments, charges ranging from the deprivation of rights and conspiracy to wire fraud. One 30-page indictment points to disturbing communications, including an officer who bragged that his police canine bit at least 28 people. The officers have yet to enter a plea. Lester.
Aaron McLaughlin, thank you. Tonight, alarming signs that Russia has supplied North Korea with a new missile that could evade U.S. missile defenses and hit multiple American targets. Andrea Mitchell has this exclusive report. Andrea, what is this new North Korean weapon?
Lester, according to a new study from Beyond Parallel, reported first by NBC News, this new North Korean missile tested in July is nearly identical in appearance and trajectory data to a Russian missile that can penetrate U.S. missile defenses and carry multiple warheads as far as here in Washington. 2 weeks after that test, Russia's defense minister met with Kim Jong-un in North Korea to further cement their ties. Russia was already helping North Korea with energy and food, and North Korea has been providing Russia weapons for Ukraine. All this will be part of tomorrow's Camp David summit when President Biden hosts the leaders of South Korea and Japan to discuss the growing threats in the region. Lester.
All right, Andrea Mitchell, thank you. Also tonight, Russia staking its claim in a new space race to the moon and Mars. A Russian probe expected to land on the moon's south pole any day now in an area that could be critical for the future of exploration beyond the moon. Here's Tom Costello.
Now orbiting the moon, Luna 25 is Russia's first robotic lunar mission in nearly 50 years. Russia never landed cosmonauts on the moon, but within days, Luna will be the first probe to land on the moon's south side, working to confirm the presence of frozen water, which could one day be used for rocket fuel. The head of Russia's space agency says the moon could be the launching pad to explore distant planets, including Mars.
Russia has just launched a probe to land on the South Pole.
NASA Chief Bill Nelson says that ice is why the U.S. plans to land Artemis astronauts in 2025. But China is also aiming for the pole.
I don't want China to get to the South Pole first with humans and then say, this is ours, stay out.
Is this starting to feel real?
That's real. That's it. It's starting to feel very, very real.
At the Kennedy Space Center, the Artemis II astronauts, the first crew who will orbit the moon since Apollo, have now inspected the Orion spaceship that will take them there next year.
We're all smiles, of course. It's pretty inspiring moment.
NASA's goal, similar to what Russia and China are planning. Ultimately, NASA wants to create an Artemis base camp on the moon and use that to go to Mars.
Tom, I think the space race is really between us and China, and we need to protect the interest of the international community.
Nelson insists the U.S. would never lock out others, but the new space race is accelerating. Tom Costello, NBC News at the Kennedy Space Center.
In 60 seconds, smash and grab robberies at well-known stores, the impact on the price you pay, and how one big city is trying to fight back. Right after this. California's governor says he's tripling highway patrol resources in Los Angeles to crack down on the recent string of smash and grab robberies at retail stores. It comes as the city announced it is forming a task force. Here's Antonia Hilton.
Today, a major step forward to help fight brazen crimes like these in Los Angeles. where scenes of smash and grab robberies have become all too familiar. Most recently at Nordstrom's, where a mob used bear spray to disarm security.
These are not victimless crimes.
The mayor of Los Angeles announcing a retail crimes task force is now in effect, focused on thieves, but also on the getaway drivers and resellers.
Our message is clear. Those who commit these crimes will be caught.
It's part of a troubling nationwide trend. 8 in 10 retailers have reported increased incidents of violence and aggression this year. Rachel Michelin is CEO of the California Retailers Association.
It feels a little bit like we're under assault.
Experts say for every robbery seen at major retailers, there's a small business getting hit too. Retailers now demanding lawmakers increase consequences.
Do you think this new task force will have an effect?
I'm hopeful that it will have an impact, but candidly, I don't think anything will truly change until we're willing to have those difficult decisions about how do we change some of the policies on our books.
Just 2 days ago, several stores here on Rodeo Drive were hit, and incidents like these are costing retailers billions of dollars. Retailers warn consumers will pay the price too.
They will see prices go up. They will see stores close. And I don't think any of us want to see that happening.
Antonia Hilton, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Up next here tonight, with COVID cases rising, we ask the CDC director how to protect yourself and when to get boosted. COVID is making a comeback this summer, so many of us would like to leave it in the past, but cases are once again on the rise. So when will new booster shots roll out? Ann Thompson asked the CDC director.
This summer, most Americans left COVID in the past, gathering together once again mask-free. But tonight, signs of a COVID resurgence. Across the country, COVID hospitalizations jumped more than 14% in the most recent week, but far lower than pandemic levels. NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel.
What's behind this uptick in COVID that we're seeing?
The main driver of this is a variant that's relatively newer to the scene, EG5. It's easier to give and get, so that makes it kind of easier to pass along.
It's been almost a year since the last COVID booster came out. CDC Director Dr. Mandy Cohen.
The new COVID booster is expected to be approved by the FDA, and then we will make recommendations from the CDC probably by the second or third week of September.
Will it protect against this new strain?
Yes. The booster is tailored to what we are seeing circulating now.
Critics say the federal government is behind once again. People knew there was going to be a COVID resurgence. So why don't we have a booster today? Why do we have to wait until next month?
The way we go about doing our, just like we do with our flu shots, right? We make sure that we're looking at the ways in which the virus changed. They look at and evaluate that. The FDA is doing its work. We likely will see this as an annual COVID shot, just like the flu shot.
Just in time for fall, when we'll also face RSV. Can you take the flu shot, the COVID booster, and the RSV vaccine all at once?
So for flu and COVID, yes. RSV, again, is only available for older adults. That's one where I'd say talk to your doctor about what's right for you.
So until the new COVID booster comes, get prepared. Stock up on at-home tests. They do cover that new strain. Keep a mask handy in case you're in a crowded place. And most of all, get your shots, COVID, flu, and RSV, all by Halloween to give yourself your best chance of staying healthy.
A reminder that COVID never went away.
All didn't.
Right. And thank you. Coming up, a high note for two young brothers with a passion for music. Finally, we want to tell you about the two young brothers with big imaginations who have inspired their very own symphony. Here's Kathy Park.
Julian and Harrison Ryan share a special bond.
When they're together, what are they like?
Julian just enjoys whatever Harrison is doing at the time.
With Julian, you can often see and feel what he's thinking through his emotions.
He wakes up laughing with a huge smile on his face.
Born with a brain malformation, Julian can't communicate using words, but oftentimes music takes him to another level. And that's where Sing Me a Story comes in. The nonprofit connects the talents of musicians and songwriters with the creativity of children.
We were the fastest cheetahs in the world.
Harrison's imagination took him and his brother on an epic adventure. Their story made its way on stage, but not just any stage. Jazz musicians and members of the Detroit Symphony Orchestra turned their words
Julian and I were back in the backyard
into a one-of-a-kind song, and the kids had no idea.
What do you think is going to happen in the next few minutes?
I don't know.
There was almost this overwhelmed look that Harrison had on his face where he just realized, this is my story. This is really happening right now.
And right by his side, his brother taking it all in too.
Even being able to impact just 2 or 3 people in a room, sometimes that's more meaningful than playing a concert in front of thousands of people.
My brother Julian will forever and always be my adventure partner wherever life takes us.
A surprise these brothers will never forget as they look toward the next adventure. Kathy Park, NBC News, Detroit.
Now that is beautiful music. That's nightly news for this Thursday. Thank you for watching, everyone. I'm Lester Holt. Please take care of yourself and each other. Good night. Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.